Some dynasties don't collapse because of enemies outside, but because rot has already eaten through the palace from within. There is a queen who makes an entire kingdom tremble, not with a sword, but with manipulation, idolatry, and fear. And there is a commander who drives like a storm, charging straight into the center of power to cut off a bloodline that has defiled the land. But the throne is not the destination. Bloodshed is not the last word, because God does not only see what a person tears down in public, He also sees what that person keeps in private, the golden calves of quiet compromise. By the end of this story, you will witness a reversal as sharp as a blade and a lesson that sends a chill through your bones. The life of Jehu is exactly like that. Come with me as we follow his story. Israel at that time was like a magnificent palace built on a rotting foundation. The name the people of God still hung on the walls, but in the dark corners, Baal's altars burned red hot. The name of the Lord had been pushed out of the public square, and the silence of the righteous was purchased with fear. The house of Ahab had turned the throne into a shelter for tyranny, and Jezebel, like a hand in a velvet glove hiding a blade, had made wickedness feel normal inside the royal court. In that picture, Jehu was not a prophet, and he was not a priest. He was a commander of chariots, a man of the training ground, a man of orders and road dust. In the camp, people could argue about politics factions and who would survive when the palace winds shifted. But Jehu spoke little. Some people are silent because they are afraid. Jehu was silent because he was waiting for a signal. That signal came at a scorching noon when the air smelled heavy of iron and sweat. The commanders were sitting in a plain room. Outside, horses stamped, and rain struck wood with a dry, hard sound. Then a young man walked in, his movements urgent, as if he carried fire with him. He did not waste time on greetings. He fixed his eyes on Jehu and motioned, "Come with me." Jehu followed him down a narrow corridor. The door closed. He took out a flask of oil and poured it over Jehu's head. Warm oil ran through his hair down his temples like a mark that could not be wiped away. And he spoke words that turned Jehu's life onto another path.
I have anointed you king over my people of Israel. You shall down the house of Ahab your master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, shed by Jezebel.
Then the young man turned and disappeared as quickly as an arrow released from the bowstring. Jehu stood still. In that moment, he heard two things at once: the pounding of his own heart and the sound of history beginning to move. He went back into the room. The commanders looked at him, at the oil in his hair, and then at each other, and they pressed him with questions. The air felt stretched tight. Jehu hesitated for a heartbeat, but some moments cannot be hidden because the sign was already on him. He spoke briefly.
"The prophet has anointed me king."
Immediately the men sprang to their feet. Cloaks were pulled down and spread like makeshift steps. A shout rose like a command to march. And inside that shouting, Jehu heard something else. Not glory, but an order with no return. Jehu did not do what kings often do when they first seize power: hold ceremonies, raise banners, test public opinion. He did what a commander does. When he receives an order, he acted at once. Chariot wheels crushed gravel. The company hurled itself toward Jezreel, where Joram, Ahab's son, was recovering from wounds. A watchman on the city tower saw dust in the distance like a blurred streak growing larger. He squinted, his heart pounding. In times of peace, no one drove like that. He reported it below. Joram heard and sent out a rider to ask. The rider galloped toward them, but Jehu did not slow. He answered like a stone thrown.
"What have you to do with peace? Turn around and follow me!"
A second rider went out. The question was the same. The answer was just as cold. The watchman began to recognize the driving style: hard, fast, unbending, like a man with no road behind him. He said a sentence that spread like bad news.
"It was Jehu driving!"
Joram climbed into his chariot and went out himself. The two chariots met in the field near Naboth's vineyard. That ground still remembered stolen land and old sin. Today, it was about to witness justice rolling through on wheels and arrows. Joram shouted,
Is it peace, Jehu?
and Jehu answered,
How can there be peace? so long as the whorings and sorceries of your mother Jezebel are so many."
In that instant, Joram understood this was not a meeting for negotiation. He turned to flee, but Jehu drew his bow. The arrow left the string and drove straight into his heart. The king collapsed in his chariot dust, still flying, but a dynasty had just been cut at the root. Jehu ordered the body thrown into Naboth's field, as if returning the land to justice, as if sealing the truth that sin does not vanish, it only waits for the day it is named. Jehu did not stop to celebrate. The most dangerous target was still alive, Jezebel. When the news reached the city, Jezebel did not panic. She prepared herself like someone about to step onto a throne. She painted her eyes, arranged her hair, and wrapped herself in one last layer of pride. Then she stood at a high window where she could see what was coming. Jehu entered. The city held its breath. Hooves struck stone. Wheels ground against the road. Jezebel looked down and released a hook of mockery.
"Is it peace, you Zimri, murderer of your master?"
That was her method, orc the man before her into a traitor, turned justice into betrayal. Jehu looked up. He did not argue. He did not defend himself. He asked one short question enough to shake the palace.
Who is on my side?
A faint sound of breathing came from behind the window. 2, then 3 eunuchs leaned out. They said nothing, but their eyes had already chosen. Jehu spoke a command as short as a blade.
Throw her down.
Jezebel's body fell from the window. Pride hit stone. Blood splattered the wall and the horse's hooves, and Jehu passed by. Afterward, Jehu went in to eat and drink. Then he remembered Jezebel was a king's daughter and sent men to bury her. But they went out and returned with faces drained white. And the old word of the Lord closed like a door slamming shut. Dogs shall eat the flesh of Jezebel in the territory of Jezreel. 2 Kings 9:36. Jehu did not stop. He knew this: if you cut off the head of the serpent, but leave the eggs tomorrow, you will have new serpents. The house of Ahab was not only a king and a queen, it was a network son servants officials, people living by shadow. Jehu wrote letters to Samaria, where Ahab's sons were being raised. The letter hit like a fist on a door. If you want to resist, choose the strongest among them and make him king. But they had heard about the arrow, the window, the blood. Fear made them surrender before they ever fought. Jehu sent a second letter. Not long, just enough to freeze the blood. The next morning at the city gate, baskets were set down. Heads were piled up. Jehu ordered them placed at the gate. Then he declared,
"Know then that there shall fall to the earth nothing of the word of the Lord, which the Lord spoke concerning the house of Ahab."
On the road toward Samaria, Jehu met Jehonadab, a man known for uprightness and opposition to idols. Jehu looked at him like a necessary witness and said,
Come with me and see zeal of the Lord.
Jehonadab climbed into the chariot, and that chariot in the people's eyes was no longer only a chariot of violence, it became the chariot of a purge. But Baal still remained. Jehu understood the root had to be pulled up. He used strategy. He announced a great feast for Baal, greater than anything Ahab had done. The message went everywhere. Baal's priests, worshippers, the ones who lived by incense, smoke, and drums, poured into the temple in Samaria like birds flying to food. The temple filled. Vestments were handed out so no one would be mixed in. Outside, Jehu stationed guards at the doors. When the ritual reached its height, when the crowd thought they were standing at the peak of their religion, the exits were sealed. The order was given. The slaughter was swift and final. Baal's temple was torn down, the pillar smashed, and the place was turned into a latrine, an insult carved into stone. Scripture sums it up. Thus Jehu wiped out Baal from Israel. 2 Kings 10:28. Jehu did what no one dared. He swept the house of Ahab clean. He ended Jezebel. He broke Baal. But the story does not end here. Jehu destroyed Baal's temple, but he left the golden calves at Bethel and Dan. Jehu destroyed Baal's temple, but he left the golden calves at Bethel and Dan. Scripture says it plainly. Jehu was not careful to walk in the law of the Lord. He did not turn from the sins of Jeroboam. 2 Kings 31. In the years that followed, the kingdom felt less suffocated because Baal had been erased, but spiritual renewal did not come the way people hoped. The people were still used to convenient worship, still walking toward the golden calves, like returning to an old habit. In the palace, praise for Jehu grew louder and louder until truth became rare. Flatterers always know how to soothe a king who has won great victories. They reminded him of Chariot's arrows, windows, Jezebel's fall, as if retelling yesterday's triumph could replace today's full obedience. Jehu began to go out to battle less. He sat on the throne more, and the throne has its own trap. It makes people believe they can manage consequences. He kept the golden calves to stabilize the nation, so the people would not go down to Judah to worship and shift their loyalty. It was political reasoning that sounded perfectly sensible, but in God's eyes, an idol is never merely a tool for stability, it is a fracture. Toward the end of his life, his body weakened. The man who once drove like a storm now walked slowly, and in each slow step, he heard more clearly what the roar of wheels had once drowned out. Outside the window, Samaria still lived, merchants calling out children running ordinary life, continuing as if it did not know that kings also become dust. But in the king's chamber, memory returned in layers, not to praise, but to weigh. He remembered the oil on his hair on the day he was anointed. He remembered Joram's face when he said, "How can there be peace?" He remembered the shout, "Who is on my side?" and the moment the window became a place of judgment. He remembered the packed temple of Baal and the silence after the command. All of that remained true. But among those victories, another image slipped in, smaller, yet more persistent: two golden calves standing motionless at Bethel and Dan, like two shadows he had chosen to keep. When sickness grew severe, servants whispered outside the door. Officials came and went, watching each other like people reading the future in the face of the present. Jehu lay there, no strength left to lift a sword, and for the first time he understood deeply what helplessness was. Not helplessness against an enemy, but helplessness against the consequences of compromise. In the end, the storm driver weakened. And when the noise of wheels faded, what remained was the weight of compromise. Baal gone, yet the calves still standing. On his final night, the city outside still held torchlight, still held laughter and conversation. But inside the king's room, Jehu looked into the darkness like staring into a mirror. The roar of chariots and the praise of men could not drown out one quiet truth: partial obedience is still disobedience. Then his breathing thinned. The king who came like a storm departed like a lamp going out. They buried him in Samaria. Jezebel was gone to fear no more. Baal was gone to worship openly no more. But the golden calves still stood like a reminder that a person's legacy can be both a great victory and a great warning. And this is what the story leaves with us. Some of us are zealous, ready to tear down Baal's temple in our own lives, to cut away what is clearly wrong. Yet we may also be keeping a small golden calf, a hidden compromise, a corner of darkness renamed with the word reasonable. Jehu's story says God sees both, and he does not only want us to start strong, he wants us to finish faithful. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more Bible stories. We spend a great deal of time researching, writing, and producing, and your support is the motivation that helps us continue creating more powerful Bible-grounded stories like this. Leave a comment if you want the Lord to strengthen you to overcome every compromise.